Hey guys, this is just kind of like a second addition to my post-game thoughts for the LSU game. Right before I get into the mess of the Alabama versus Mississippi State game, I just had some things I wanted to kind of clear up. So I went back and looked at little pieces of the game here. And the first thing was I like I said in the previous video about Alabama when they got down to the red zone after Jalen Hurts threw probably the best pass of his college career, and he needs to keep that up. uh, that long pass to Ardarius Stewart that got us down to the 10. I felt like I didn't see four plays that led to the fourth down turnover downs, but I went back and I saw them now. There were two Damian Harris runs on first down and on second down. And then there were two Jalen Hurts runs on third down and on fourth down. Fourth down being the one where he got stopped going to the left, and that led to the turnover on downs. Alabama probably should have kicked the field goal there. I mean, I understand the reasoning for the touchdown, but I think points at that point would have just been good. Would have put LSU, basically would have dampened their hopes even more. I think we would have just got a field goal there. But I definitely understand the rationale for going for the touchdown. Yeah, with that being said, I also just noticed a few other things. Uh, LSU, the only time they looked threatening in the game, and I noticed this when I watched it the first time, was in the second quarter around the midway mark. They had kind of gotten a little groove on offense for about two drives in a row. The first drive, they moved about 35 yards down the field. They had kind of a little something going, and then they missed the deep pass to Chark. And then on third down, they missed the pass to keep the drive going. And then on the next drive, they had a little bit of success too. But I noticed both times when Alabama saw that they had kind of got a little momentum going, like they had got those were on those drives. Those were Leonard Fournette's like most successful runs. He had about a 9 yard carry here, 6 yard carry there. He had about three or four of those on both of those drives. Not three or four each, but three or four total on both of those drives. And that kind of opened them up a little bit because Alabama started to they were continuing to play front seven and let the guys play back. And that kind of opened little things up for them. It wasn't enough for them to score, obviously, as they couldn't move down the field effectively. Alabama, I noticed Jeremy Pruitt dialed up a linebacker blitz, and that blew them up and put them behind the chains, and we set them right back, and they punted the ball back to us. And we did that for two drives in a row, and that really was the only time that LSU threatened the entire game. LSU tried to establish a little bit of balance, and they had got a little bit of success, and it had opened up a little bit for them, but Alabama shut it down. Other than that, LSU didn't have any success on the day. Also, well, but besides their defense, but I already talked about that in the first video. Also, I noticed in that second quarter, Alabama when they inputted Bo Scarbrough in the game, and I talked about this, his running style changed things. Damian Harris and Joshua Jacobs were more shifty, rely more on their vision, not necessarily their power. Bo Scarborough, he came into the game and he hit the line. Like he didn't find the best possible hole, or he didn't try to shift and go to the outside. He ran right at guys. There was one play where he specifically ran right at Bradley Bozeman and hit the guy that Bradley Bozeman was blocking and knocked him backwards and kept going. And he also had another run where he ran up the middle, got a few more yards. He had another run where he broke a few tackles, even spinned out of one at the end and fell forward for the first down. And that sparked Alabama because, like I said in the last video, if we had to just run up the middle, we would have had LSU's number the whole night. But we had trouble running up the middle, or we decided not to run up the middle, or maybe it was just that our running back style wasn't acclimated to running up the middle like Bo Scarborough's was. And when Bo Scarborough did that, on that drive, it was like in the middle of the second quarter, Alabama got the ball moving. Then all of a sudden, Jalen Hurts was able to fake the ball to the running back and run around to the side. All of a sudden, those little small receiver screens were open, and Alabama was moving down the field, all because of that inside running game getting going what it needed to. And he did that for about a couple drives. And unfortunately, out there about his third or fourth carry, Bo Scarborough tweaked his knee, and that's why we didn't see him anymore for the rest of the second quarter, and probably for I think the majority of the third quarter too. I don't think we saw him again until the fourth quarter. He tweaked his knee, and I think he had a little trouble getting back into the game, and that set us back. I think if he had stayed in the game, Alabama would have scored much more points because on that same drive where he had to go out after that, Jalen Hurts missed a couple of touchdown passes. Well, one of them could have been a touchdown, or at least got us down to the goal line again. And one of them, it was just great coverage by Tre'Davious White. So if you recall, at that same drive where Bo Scarbrough was in, but then he tweaked his knee and Damien Harris came in. Jalen Hurts drew a pass down the right sideline toward Damien Harris. And this is the drive where we missed the field goal, actually, the 40-yard field goal. But he did, on the right sideline, Damien Harris had ran past his guy. He had about 3 or 4 steps on him. And the ball was going in the right direction, but unfortunately it was too high. And I can't put that all on Jalen Hurts. I think that's mainly because that Damien Harris is short. He's only like 5'10", 5'11", maybe giving him a little bit too much there. And that ball was looking like it was going for a receiver. And the safety was coming over. At the most, he would have stopped him right at the goal line, or Damien Harris would have fell into the end zone. But if that pass had just been arced a little bit less and dropped down on Damien Harris more, that probably would have been a touchdown. And then on the ensuing play, he had Calvin Ridley going to the left, kind of throw like a fade route-ish type route to Calvin Ridley going into the left side of the end zone. And Jalen Hurts, I can't fault him for being safe. He threw the ball a little bit more to the outside, and so just to make sure his receivers on when they can get the ball. Because Tre'Davious White was right there on Calvin Ridley's hip, so if he had thrown it more in, it would have given White a chance to make a play on the ball. But at that point in the game, I think it would have been okay to take a little bit of that risk there. So, like I said, Alabama left some points on the board, so that was interesting. And there was one last thing I wanted to. I think I may have covered like basically all the loose ends that I noticed in the game. The pass rush was amazing. Like I said, I noticed. Oh, that's what it was. I thought that because of the way that Dwayne Thomas and Arden Key had played, I thought maybe our offensive line had a little bit of trouble. But when I looked back at it and I kept watching all these plays, our offensive line actually handled the LSU front extremely well. There were a few small cases here and there where I saw maybe Lewis Neal knock back Lester Cotton at the end of the half or the first half, and maybe every once in a while a block was missed. Well, I wouldn't even say missed, but basically it was more like a stalemate. But other than that, offensive line played great. A lot of times, I think I noticed that Alabama was trying to read Arden Key. They were trying to read Arden Key. You know, when you do an RPO, you read a defensive line, and the defensive line they were reading was Arden Key. I thought Cam Robinson was beat by Arden Key, but no, what happened was he'll just push him or tap him or like hit him, and he'll run out to try to set the block for the wide receiver screen or for the running back screen, and so that left Jalen Hurts intentionally one-on-one with Arden Key. It's just that Arden Key and Dwayne Thomas made some really great plays as Dwayne Thomas was blitzing from the slot, and Arden Key, with his length and athleticism, disrupted a lot of Jalen Hurts' passes. And so LSU just had really good personnel. And so a lot of people think that LSU provided the blueprint for how to beat Alabama. The issue with that is, one, you need LSU's personnel on defense. And two, you need Dave Aranda's scheme. You need to be able to have his ability to adjust and do things that he did in that game. And one, you're expecting your players to be disciplined enough, as LSU was disciplined enough and fired up enough and emotionally invested enough to actually execute that game plan well. That's asking a lot. Not to say that other teams can't replicate it, but that's not something that's easily replicated. You need a lot of factors to fall into place to try to replicate that game plan, and that's assuming that Alabama is going to attack the same way they did against LSU. I'm sure after Lane Kiffin watches this, he's going to adjust. And the issue also is, I think what we notice is that when teams do that, the middle of the defense is open. So all we have to do is let Bo Scarbrough run the ball up the middle and bang into these guys until they don't want to take the punishment no more. And I think that's just what we're going to have to take from this game. And we saw that Jalen can make the deep throws. I think what we also need, and like I said in the previous video, is just let him take like 5 of those shots per game. Let him throw the ball down the field, Darius Stewart. Let him throw the ball down to Calvin Ridley. Intercept it or not, it is going to make the defense be aware that we're going to throw the ball down the field, and that will open up the run more, open up some of those shorter passes. So that was just like my second addition to the post-game thoughts of the first LSU post-game thoughts video. So thanks for listening. I just had to go back and look at a few things. But yeah, Mississippi State preview coming up. I wonder if I'll actually do it today. We'll see.